They were ordinary people, just like you and me, who never expected to find themselves like this. But they found courage. They found grit, grace. They found strength in each other. And in their stories, we find strength within. The National World War II Museum. Find the extraordinary inside.
Our topic today is about savings. What is savings?
We have individual dreams,
example.
And we also have shared dreams for our cities and communities. Hancock Whitney isn't just a bank for our clients. We're investing in our hometowns, making life better for everyone. So keep dreaming. We've got your back.
ordinary people, just like you and me, who never expected to find themselves like this. But they found courage. They found grit, grace. They found strength in each other. And in their stories, we find strength within. The National World War II Museum. Find the extraordinary inside.
Our topic today is about savings. What is savings?
We have
Anybody
individual dreams.
and Example.
And we also have shared dreams for our cities and communities. Hancock Whitney isn't just a bank for our clients. We're investing in our hometowns, making life better for everyone. So keep dreaming. We've got your back.
They were ordinary people, just like you and me, who never expected to find themselves like this. But they found courage. They found grit, grace. They found strength in each other. And in their stories, we find strength within. The National World War II Museum. Find the extraordinary inside.
Our topic today is about savings. What is savings?
We have
Anybody
individual dreams,
an example?
and we also have shared dreams for our cities and communities. Hancock Whitney isn't just a bank for our clients. We're investing in our hometowns, making life better for everyone. So keep dreaming. We've got your back.
Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and born by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
Through the wind and the waves came the soldiers, out of their landing craft and into the water, away from their youth and toward a savage place. Many of them would sadly never leave.
We know how many American kids died. Don't ever forget.
I was doing something for my country. We wanted to do our share.
We need to challenge our young folks to realize in a lot of sacrifice for them to enjoy freedoms, and they're carrying the torch for the future.
It is not just about service. You need to understand it's about sacrifice. Fighting against fascism, National Socialism, Japanese imperialism. Millions of people died. But if the war had not been fought, if the war had not been won, millions more would have perished.
My husband and I went through a concentration camp to see it firsthand with my children. What the American soldiers got us out of is just miraculous. They couldn't give up. They had to keep going, and that's what saved us all. Thank God I came to the United States. It's the best thing that happened to me and my family. And I'll forever be grateful. I'm an American citizen. It means a lot.
This day have set upon a mighty endeavor. Our sons, pride of our nation, lead them straight and true. Their road will be long and hard. In this hour of great sacrifice, we shall prevail.
From the front lines to the assembly lines, on the battlefields abroad and in households across the nation, the greatest generation rose to the challenge and triumphed in World War II. On June 6, 2000, the National D-Day Museum opened its doors to preserve and share these personal stories of courage, teamwork, service, and sacrifice. In 2003, Congress designated it as the National World War II Museum. What was once a single exhibit hall has grown to a 6-acre campus, housing the stories of veterans, Holocaust survivors, and homefront workers in immersive exhibits, state-of-the-art multimedia experiences, and a first-of-its-kind hotel and conference center. It has become one of our country's leading museums and educational institutions. On our campus and across the country, the National World War II Museum reaches hundreds of thousands of students, teachers, and adult learners through online content and educational programs. Today, the American Spirit Awards recognize leaders who, like those of the World War II generation, embody and inspire others through their own acts of courage, sacrifice, initiative, and generosity, by making significant contributions to their country and community. Through the American Spirit Awards, we remember the values of freedom and democracy that the World War II generation fought to preserve, and we celebrate those who have shared those principles in their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, now singing our national anthem, please welcome the Victory Bells.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And now, please welcome the CEO of the National World War II Museum, Stephen Watson.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for tonight's 2021 American Spirit Awards virtual celebration presented by Hancock Whitney. While I wish you could all be here with me in New Orleans tonight, one of the advantages of this year's virtual program is being able to bring together even more of our friends and supporters from across the country to celebrate the values of the World War II generation and to honor those who have inspired others through their own acts of service. It's so great to have you all tuning in for this very special evening. A very special thanks, of course, to Hancock Whitney for their steadfast support and for continuing to present this program as its sponsor. We'd also like to thank Todd Ricketts and Sylvie Leger, Freeport McMoran, and the Richard Adkerson Family Foundation, and of course, all of tonight's other sponsors and donors. As we begin our program tonight, I'd like to follow our long-standing tradition at the National World War II Museum, and that is, of course, to recognize all World War II veterans, home front workers, and Holocaust survivors that are watching with us tonight. It is always an honor to pay tribute to you here at the National World War II Museum. Simply put, your service and sacrifice is what inspires us every day to preserve this history. I'd also like to recognize all other veterans and active duty military joining us online. Thank you for carrying our country's great legacy of service. Throughout this past year and a half, as we've all been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen our nation channel the American spirit of courage, teamwork, sacrifice, and service, rising to the challenge much like the World War II generation did. Tonight, the American Spirit Awards recognizing leaders who embody those very same values and have made significant contributions to our country and community. Here in the museum's U.S. Freedom Pavilion, the Boeing Center, we pay tribute to the 16.1 million men and women who answered the call to service during World War II, and the countless millions of Americans who fueled the arsenal of democracy that produced the planes, the ships, the tanks, and the other machinery on the home front. This year, and every year, it's our great honor to award the Silver Service Medallion to veterans or individuals with a direct connection to the World War II generation, those who set the example we strive to follow. This year's recipients include a B-17 bomber pilot, an Army Nurse Corps lieutenant, and a warrant officer who landed on Omaha Beach on D-Day. All three distinguished veterans continue to serve their country and communities long after helping secure victory in World War II. It's my honor to present the Silver Service Medallion to Major John Lucky Luckadoo, Lieutenant Rose Bayuk, and Warrant Officer Johnny Jones Sr.
The defining character trait of this year's 3 Silver Service Medallion honorees is a commitment to serving their country in a time of war. It was determination, not luck, that led Major John H. Lucky Luckadoo to defy his father's wishes to become a U.S. Air Force pilot during the greatest conflict of the 20th century.
Prior to Pearl Harbor, and just after graduating from high school, my best friend and I decided that we both would go to Canada and join the Royal Canadian Air Force, learn to fly, and then once America became involved in the World War, we could transfer to the Army Air Corps in grade, and we'd be a step ahead of all of our buddies.
After he graduated from Twin Engine Flight School, he was sent to England to join the 100th Bomb Group, a B-17 bomber unit known as the Bloody 100 because it suffered so many casualties. Over the course of the war, the 100th Bomb Group lost 785 airmen and over 200 aircraft were damaged or destroyed.
We were a hard luck outfit from the beginning. We didn't have any fighter escort, so the minute we crossed the channel, we were over enemy territory. We were flying naked on our own. So our losses were pretty overwhelming.
Lucky Luckadoo earned his nickname, flying 25 missions for the 100th and the 350th Bomber Groups in unpressurized B-17s.
You had 4 enemies that you were confronted with. The first was your fear, because we were literally scared to death. The second was fighters. The Luftwaffe was so far in advance of our abilities. The third was the flak, the anti-aircraft that we had no control over. And of course, the last was the freezing, the bitter, bitter cold. The sheer terror of knowing that any time you stepped in the airplane might be your last.
Despite the danger and hardship he faced over Europe, Luckadoo knew that defending his country was not a choice, but an obligation, and he is quick to acknowledge that he was not the only one doing his part.
Well, the motivation for most of us to go in the first place was our belief that both the Germans in Europe and the Japanese in the Far East were going to take over if we didn't do something about it. Even the people who stayed home were so supportive. Not only the older generations, but the kids were doing their part to support us at the front. Other generations will recognize that the nation is grateful.
The life of Lieutenant Rose Bayuk, USANC, was a life of service to family, community, and country, and yet she found her true calling almost by accident.
I graduated from junior college. Nursing was not my choice. I wanted to do some research work, but I found out that I couldn't afford the school that I wanted to go to. And my friend, she said, well, let's go into nursing. I said, okay. And we became students at the nursing school in Rochester, Minnesota.
After graduation, she worked at hospitals in Minnesota and California before returning home and enlisting in the Army Nurse Corps.
My sister Pat, who's a nurse, and I went in together. The approach of being introduced into the Army and changing from civilian clothes to military clothes, that was a dramatic change. I still was in my white uniform and white cap at that time. I didn't realize what war was until we were told we were going to the East Coast to go to war. I was on a hospital ship for 2 years, all the way to the war.
During the war, Lieutenant Bayuk oversaw a floating ward of 60 beds and made 11 round-trip crossings of the Atlantic to pick up wounded soldiers.
They're in bad conditions, amputees, emotional, and that sort of thing. Going back to the United States for better care and better treatment.
After the war, Lieutenant Bayuk returned to Minnesota, where she continued to serve her community as a nurse in the school system, at a series of senior care centers, and even after her retirement, as a volunteer American Red Cross nurse.
Communities can do so much. We can do so much. I got to know a lot of people and helped a lot of people. I feel like I've done my job.
Born in 1919 into a cotton farming family in Laurel Hill, Louisiana, Johnny A. Jones knew he wanted more out of life and that an education was the way for him to get it.
You go to school or you going to the field. That's what my daddy say. But he didn't have to say that but once to me. I said, I'm going to school. Because I couldn't stand and look at the cotton field.
Jones made his way to Southern University, where he excelled when the United States entered World War II. Many students were able to defer going into the military, but Jones was determined to serve his country.
I was in my third semester, and I demanded to finish my third semester in college at Southern University, and they granted it. After a lot of fun, I went back and walked in my dry board, and I said, here I am, I'm ready to go.
Once in the military, Jones was offered a place in officers' training school, but he instead chose to become a warrant officer and served in the 494th Quartermaster Port Battalion in England until D-Day, when he was put aboard a victory ship and sent to Normandy.
I ended up on Francis C. Harrison in the English Channel, and then at Army Hall. When you got on to the French side, there's a German shooting from under the ground and on top of the ground. And then all of a sudden, planes coming over from over the top of the too. Everywhere you look was bullets. Zoo, zoo, zoo. Bullets just whistling by my ear.
Jones served in Europe until the end of the war, participating in many campaigns, including the Battle of the Bulge. When he returned to the U.S., he received his law degree from Southern University and continued to serve his country as a civil rights attorney, where he played an instrumental role in the 1953 Baton Rouge bus boycott. He was recently awarded the French Legion of Honor in 2020.
In spite of everything, the United States is actually the greatest nation in the world.
The lives of Major John H. Lucky Luckadoo, Lieutenant Rose Bayuk, and Johnny A. Jones all embody the spirit of service and sacrifice that makes them true American heroes, and we are honored to present them with the National World War II Museum Silver Service Medallion.
As the United States entered World War II following the attack on Pearl Harbor, Americans of all ages and backgrounds responded by enlisting for service, assisting with wartime manufacturing, and planting victory gardens. Some, like 6-year-old Billy Michael, even collected enough scrap metal to help his one-room school win a statewide contest during the war. Inspired by Billy Michael's example and the stories we share here in the Arsenal of Democracy, the Herman and George R. Brown Salute to the Home Front, the museum recognizes outstanding students from across the country with the Billy Michael Student Leadership Award. Recognized for their volunteer work in their schools and communities, each of these 51 student honorees is committed to making a positive impact as they lead the way for their generation. We are proud to honor their accomplishments with the 2021 Billy Michael Student Leadership Award.
As an entire generation of men and women faced the greatest threat the world had ever seen, the next generation looked to do their part.
Well, I was born in Alexandria, and I lived in a little town named Zimmerman, Louisiana, about the third biggest sawmill town in Louisiana. Every time there was a war picture, we all went to Alexandria. I remember because we had the maneuvers, we'd all sit there and watch them. They had a battle on the highway. What I remember was the smoke and the noise. And I remember they had all those young soldier guys around.
The 6-year-old from Zimmerman was too young to join up, but he learned that even a child could contribute to the war effort by collecting scrap metal.
I pulled my little wagon up and down and collected stuff, and then collected 500 pounds. Then I threw my wagon on and my sister's tricycle on the.
Billy helped his one-room school win a statewide scrap metal collection contest, proving that every citizen could play a role no matter their age.
So we were first, and Zimmerman Camp, they came in second, but they had a railroad engine, okay? So.
Michael went on to become a successful dentist in South Louisiana and then an instructor at Loyola University and Louisiana State University. To honor his example and the actions of millions of other students on the home front, the National World War II Museum established the Billy Michael Student Leadership Award. Presented annually to one student from each state and the District of Columbia, The award honors young leaders who demonstrate the American spirit in their communities through activities such as food drives, capturing oral histories, becoming Eagle Scouts, supporting veteran organizations, founding nonprofits, assisting in fundraising, and much more. Since 2017, 204 students have received the Billy Michael Student Leadership Award. In 2021, the Student Awards program looked a little different. Instead of gathering at the museum's campus, the students participated in online sessions with recipients of the American Spirit and Silver Service medallions. Part of the funds raised by the American Spirit Awards provide scholarships for Billy Michael honorees and other students to participate in the museum's Student Leadership Academy and Normandy Academy. The National World War II Museum's Billy Michael Student Leadership Award reminds us that service to country and community helps create active and engaged citizens, that the lessons of the World War II generation live on through these young leaders, and illustrates that teamwork, tolerance, creativity, and perseverance can be learned and lived by all Americans, regardless of age. One thing is certain, the future of the American spirit is in good hands.
Good evening, and congratulations to all of tonight's honorees. I'm John Kerner, and it is my great honor and privilege to serve as chairman of the board for the National World War II Museum. 21 years ago, we celebrated the opening of what was then called the National D-Day Museum in this original building, the Louisiana Memorial Pavilion. Thanks to your incredible support, our institution has come a very long way since then, earning congressional designation as the National World War II Museum, expanding to 6 pavilions along with a hotel and a conference center, and establishing ourselves as the #1 attraction in New Orleans and one of the top museums in the country and world. The museum carries a big responsibility to preserve the lessons and legacies of World War II and to continue ensuring that the new generations engage with this important history. As you know, in the last 18 months, our usual way of fulfilling that mission has been significantly challenged. The difficulties presented by the pandemic required constant innovation and ingenuity as the museum pivoted to serve our audiences online when they needed us the most, and reopening our exhibits here in New Orleans with new safety protocols in place. I am incredibly proud of the museum staff and volunteers for all their work to continue advancing the mission during this difficult time. And I am deeply grateful to my fellow trustees and museum supporters for your generous contributions to support the museum's continued educational outreach. Funds raised from tonight's event will help support the expansion of the museum's educational webinars, classroom resources, and digital content as we continue to provide inspiring online experiences and build back our on-site visitation. Let's take a look back at the challenges and successes of this past year.
We all remember what it felt like when everything paused. We all felt the impact of this shared global experience. On March 14, 2020, the National World War II Museum closed its doors due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It came during one of our busiest seasons when hundreds of thousands of people would have visited the museum. Our educational travel team was planning more than 20 tours to battlefields across the globe. In the coming months, World War II veterans, home front workers, and Holocaust survivors would have attended the museum's commemoration of the end of the war. And then, the world stopped. But from isolation came inspiration and action. As the museum quickly pivoted to virtually welcome visitors to digital content and distance learning, board chairman and World War II veteran Paul Hilliard established a COVID-19 response fund. More than $1.7 million was raised, which allowed the important work of the museum to continue.
We're happy you can join us today to take a look at some of the highlights from the museum's education artifact collection.
Powered by a superb team of educators, curators, and historians from the World War II Media and Education Center, the Institute for the Study of War and Democracy, and the Curatorial Services Department worked as a team to produce robust digital content for teachers, parents, and students who were adjusting to online learning from home. A digital library provided rich resources for teachers, curriculum guides, webinars, electronic field trips, collections, and hands-on activities.
Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Kate, and I'm here to bring you a very special and exciting program today with us to do something a little bit different than what we usually do on these webinars. And we're going to do some drawing.
Students access daily oral history video spotlights from more than 10,000 personal accounts in the museum's collection, compilations of lectures and conferences, Facebook Live events from curators and authors.
My name is Kaylee Martin, and I'm a historian at the National World War II Museum. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Kate Landeck about her new book, The Women with Silver Wings. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
And they learned about popular culture from World War II, including baking, music of the day, and literature. Museum historians appeared on national media to provide historical insight to parallels drawn between the shared sacrifice of World War II and the pandemic. 2020 also saw the museum virtually celebrate major milestones, the 20th anniversary of our grand opening and the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. The Higgins Hotel and Conference Center remained open and provided a safe place for guests to stay. As one of the first museums in the country to reopen, the public returned on Memorial Day 2020 with new operational protocols and safety measures in place. Thanks to our loyal supporters, visitation has steadily grown to more than 1,000 people a day. On September 12th, we were honored to celebrate the 111th birthday of Lawrence Brooks, a New Orleans native and the oldest World War II veteran in the U.S. While we celebrate with him every year, this year was with socially distanced fun and 20,000 birthday cards from across the country. Though visitors have safely returned to the museum, we have continued to expand our digital outreach with a wide array of topics for diverse audiences, including a virtual book club and a new podcast on President Harry Truman, to the best of my ability.
And fear of the unknown will do some peculiar things, especially in wartime.
In 2021, we're on track to have our educational content accessed more than 10 million times. We look back on this past year with deep gratitude to museum staff, volunteers, and supporters from across the country whose commitment sustained us through some dark days. We eagerly look forward to sharing new digital content while welcoming more visitors in person, where they'll see great progress on the campus expansion. The Bollinger Canopy of Peace is nearly complete, and the final exhibit hall, the Liberation Pavilion, is set to open in 2022. The National World War II Museum's mission and culture represent the very best of our country in a time of crisis. The American spirit endures today and reaffirms that indeed we are all in this together.
During this challenging year, it's incredible to see what our teams have been able to accomplish in not just sustaining, but also advancing our educational programs and outreach in spite of a global pandemic. We owe much of that innovation to the support we've received throughout the year from both loyal members and generous donors who believe in the importance of our mission. It's because of your commitment to the museum that our teams have had the resources needed to solve problems we never expected to face and to discover new ways to serve our audiences. The American Spirit Awards provides vital support for the museum's educational programming during this pivotal time. Please join me in thanking our presenting sponsor, of course, Hancock Whitney, our supporting sponsors, Todd Ricketts and Sylvie Leger, our spirit sponsors, Freeport-McMoran and the Richard Adkerson Family Foundation, our 20th anniversary sponsor, the Duchossois children, in honor of their father, Richard L. Duchossois, along with Madeline and Paul Hilliard, in honor of Richard L. Duchossois, Kathy and Joe Sanderson, Stevens Inc., Airbus Americas, Kevin Clifford and Michelle Renoir, Tom and Kathy Langtot, Ladder and Bloom, Matilda Gettings Gray Foundation, Bob Siebel, Terry Schofer and their friends, and the many other friends and donors listed on the website and in the credits at the end of tonight's program. We truly could not have accomplished this night without all of your help. I also want to take a moment to thank the many people who have literally spent months planning and putting together tonight's event, including our staff from across the museum campus, our partners at Atherton Pictures and DB Productions, and our American Spirit Awards Committee. And of course, our committee chair, John Hairston, who also serves as the CEO of our presenting sponsor, Hancock Whitney. John has been a key driver in the growth of the American Spirit Awards, and I'm deeply grateful for his personal leadership, as well as the generosity of Hancock Whitney, who have served as our presenting sponsor these past 5 years. It is now my pleasure to turn the program over to John Hairston, who will introduce our next group of honorees from BB's Stage Door Canteen.
Thank you, Stephen. It is an honor for Hancock Whitney to continue supporting the American Spirit Awards and the National World War II Museum as we honor generations of leaders who carry on the great legacy of the World War II generation. The bank continues to support the museum, not only because we believe in the dual mission of honoring the World War II generation and educating young people about lessons learned during that time in American history, but also due to the impact of the museum on the Gulf South region. The museum earns our support through exploring the American story from diverse perspectives. On behalf of Hancock Whitney, I want to congratulate the 2021 American Spirit Award honorees and all members of the Greatest Generation. This year's American Spirit Medallion honorees have made incredible contributions in their communities and demonstrated extraordinary dedication to the principles that strengthen America's freedom and democracy. Through their groundbreaking work and accomplishments, this year's recipients include a vintage aircraft aviator and veteran support program founder, a NASA mathematician, a Holocaust educator, and a Marine Corps general. They all blazed their own trails and exemplify the highest standards of courage, of determination, and initiative. It is an honor to award the American Spirit Medallion to Captain Daniel K. Fordyce III, to Miss Katherine Johnson, to Miss Ann Levy, and to Major General Angela Salinas.
A builder, a solver, a teacher, and a leader. Each of tonight's 4 American Spirit Medallion honorees embody the American spirit in truly unique ways. Dan Fordyce plays a singular role in the veterans community, simultaneously keeping the memory of veterans alive while also tending to the men and women who have recently served.
I tend to gravitate toward veterans. My grandfather served in World War II, and my dad and my brother and I were all in peacetime, and then my son is currently serving in Africa. I served in Germany in the mid-'80s, and then I came back to join the family third-generation construction company in Vicksburg, and have been there ever since.
Despite the demands of running a successful construction company, the men and women who serve our country are never far from Dan's heart. His admiration for the pilots of World War II led him to restoring and flying some of the most storied warbirds.
I was in my 40s sometimes when I started flying World War II airplanes. And you know, what we're really doing is honoring all of those that not only flew, but built the things, transported them all around the country. And that's what we're really doing. We're honoring all of them.
But his true passion is caring for veterans of all generations, who inspired him to start the Warrior Bonfire program.
What we do is we take 6 Purple Heart veterans, snow skiing, hunting, fishing, boating, whitewater paddling, all over the country. Done 60-something events. We do about 24 a year. One thing that they have given to me is they have taken away my ability to ever have a bad day.
Dan Fordyce truly embodies the American spirit.
America really is the greatest country that the world has ever seen. And it was created by people that served, by people that gave back. To get recognized by an organization of this stature is just incredible. I am very humbled and very appreciative.
Despite being born at a time when being both black and a woman limited her opportunities, Katherine Johnson's innate talents and indomitable spirit allowed her to literally soar to the cosmos. A talented mathematician who graduated from high school at 14 and college at 18, Johnson credits her father for setting her on the right track.
We were born in the country, and when we got school age, we moved to town. And my father, he farmed, he logged. Then he eventually left and went to work at the hotel so we could go to school. His basic salary was $100 a month, but he worked extra here and there.
After college, Johnson became a teacher and raised a family. But her true calling was revealed when a move to Newport News, Virginia led to a job at Langley Research Center as a mathematician.
I started out working on airplanes because when I went there, that's what it was. When the space program came along, I just happened to be working with guys, and when they had briefings on it, I asked permission to go. And they said, well, the girls don't usually go. And I said, well, is there a law? They said, no. I said, well, so then my boss said, let her go.
The rest is history, as well as a major motion picture. Recognizing Johnson's talent, NASA tasked her with developing the complex launch trajectory calculations for Alan Shepard, the first American in space, as well as John Glenn's historic first orbit of the Earth. Later on, she was critical to the success of both the Apollo 11 moon landing and the Space Shuttle program. But for this Medal of Freedom winner, it all came down to one thing: hard work.
I did it every day. I never missed a day. Never stayed home playing stick and stuff. My problem was to answer questions, and I did that to the best of my ability at all times, correct or incorrect.
Ann Levy's journey from war-torn Poland to modern-day Louisiana is a story of courage, hope, and optimism in the face of extraordinary evil. Born in Poland in 1935, she and her family suffered the brutality of the Nazis after the invasion of 1939, when they were forced into the Warsaw Ghetto.
The memories in the Warsaw Ghetto, those are the memories that will live with me forever.
Life in the ghetto was unbearable, so Levy's parents hatched a plan.
My parents saw that the children were disappearing and it was getting more dangerous every day. Somehow they made connections with a garbage truck driver. They took my mother, my sister, and I, covered us up, drove us through the gates, and dropped us off on the Aryan side where we weren't allowed to be.
A Catholic family hid them in their home at great risk to themselves, while Levy's father worked in a lumber yard under a false identity, all the time fearing discovery. After the war, Levy and her family made their way to the United States, where she and her husband opened an antique shop and raised 3 children.
We came here, and it was like pulling a curtain and say, okay, that life is over with. We're in America now, and we have to start all over again. And that's what we did. That's what the survivors did.
After they closed the store, Ann began volunteering at the National World War II Museum, where she found her true calling.
The museum was a perfect fit for me. Talking to young people, talking to school children was my responsibility, teaching them history. You know, we've gone through a lot, but the one thing that has always been necessary was to teach the children.
Major General Angela Salinas, USMC retired, is a woman of firsts. She was the first woman to command the Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego, the first woman Assistant Chief of Staff for Plans and Policy of a major combatant organization, and the first Latina promoted to the General Officer ranks in the U.S. Marine Corps. But before all that, she was the daughter of a hardworking mechanic and a domestic worker who dreamed of making a better life for their children.
So their idea of the American dream was that all 5 of their children would have the opportunity to have an education. So I went off to college. As I looked around, there weren't too many people that looked like me. And so by the end of my sophomore year, I really pretty much had convinced myself that people like me don't go to college. And so one day I went to go mail a letter. A Marine recruiter came out and looked me in the eye and said, "Why aren't you a United States Marine?"
Inspired by the idea of a career in the military, Salinas made a decision that would define the rest of her life.
On the 4th of May, I do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And by the 7th of May, I was at Parris Island, South Carolina, being yelled at by a drill instructor.
During her distinguished 39-year military career, Salinas was honored with the Navy Distinguished Service Medal, the Defense Superior Service Medal, the Legion of Merit with Gold Star, the Meritorious Service Medal with 2 Gold Stars, and several Army, Navy, and Marine Corps Commendation Medals. After leaving the service, Salinas' plans for a quiet retirement were derailed by a phone call from the Girl Scouts of Southwest Texas, who were looking for a CEO.
I immediately jumped at this opportunity because it was the idea to build girls of courage and confidence and character that make the world a better place. It spoke to me, just like my core values of honor, courage, and commitment.
Despite all her accomplishments and honors, Salinas simply feels blessed.
When you think of the American spirit, it is something above and beyond. And I'm humbled because all I truly believe I've done was I was just blessed to wear on the cloth of my nation.
Tonight's honorees, Dan Fortis, Katherine Johnson, Ann Levy, and Major General Angela Salinas have lived lives of giving and service that embody the values that the American Spirit Medallion represents.
Here in the Richard C. Atkerson and Freeport-McMoRan Foundation Road to Tokyo Pacific Theater Galleries, we are reminded of the values of the American spirit. From the determination of Seabees who literally paved the way for island-hopping aircraft, to the innovation and courage of American service members who faced extreme warfare conditions, to the sacrifices made to ultimately defeat the relentless Japanese forces in Asia and the Pacific. That American spirit continues to live on today. And tonight, we're honored to present the 2021 American Spirit Award to 5 individuals who have embraced these qualities throughout their lifetime achievements and service. As a museum's highest honor, the American Spirit Award recognizes individuals who best exemplify teamwork, optimism, courage, and sacrifice. It's quite fitting that our first few honorees are all storytellers who have dedicated their careers to bringing history to life for audiences across the globe. Our first recipient has written one of the definitive accounts on World War II, providing readers with new insights on the war and its continued impact on our world today. As one of America's preeminent military historians, Victor Davis Hanson extensively explores Greek, agrarian, and military history, as well as contemporary culture through his writing and commentary. We are honored to present Victor Davis Hanson with the 2021 American Spirit Award.
For over 3 decades, historian and classicist Victor Davis Hanson has explored the intersection of society and warfare from ancient Greece to modern-day Afghanistan, bringing to life how military conflicts shape our world. He credits his father, a raisin farmer who flew on B-29s during World War II, for his interest in history.
My father flew 40 missions as a central fire control gunner over Japan, and he would tell me we were lucky we didn't get lost or get shot down, and then we thought we went to heaven when we took Iwo Jima and we had a safety island we could land when we were shot down. And he said, I had to crash there twice. I would have never made it back to Tinian. 7,000 Marines died taking Iwo Jima.
His father's practicality was also indirectly responsible for leading him to the field of study that would become his life's work.
My father was a very practical guy, so he said there's a new UC campus called UC Santa Cruz, and it's the closest campus from this farm. It's 160 miles. Well, we got there, and it was 60s madness, you know. I wanted to get away from the madness, and I knocked on the door of my preceptor, a man named John Lynch. I said, do you ever teach anything that I don't have to take the sociology, the psychology, all of this stuff? He said, I teach Latin and Greek.
After his undergraduate at UC Santa Cruz, Hanson received his PhD in classics from Stanford University and would go on to author over 24 books on war and military history. His work has been recognized with numerous honors, including the National Humanities Medal awarded by President George W. Bush. Hansen's goal as an author has been to tell the personal stories of the past.
You never want to misrepresent history. One thing I've tried to do in a lot of my books is not just talk about strategy and tactics, but try to imagine what it was like for the soldier that was asked to fight it.
Hansen believes that understanding the past is the key to a peaceful future and feels a common cause with the National World War II Museum and its mission.
Well, if you get a chance to go to the World War II Museum, a whole world is going to open up. I think it's very important to remind American youth that democracies are not the normal order of things in history. They are not indestructible. We have the longest living democracy in existence right now, and it's only 233 years old. So we've got to constantly tell people about the past, how lucky we are in a democracy, but how fragile it is. Let's face it, World War II was the most monumental event in the history of civilization.
Dr. Hansen, for your many decades of scholarship relating to war and democracy, and more specifically for your efforts in helping to advance the mission of the National World War II Museum by telling the American experience in the war that changed the world, why it was fought, how it was won, and what it means today. On behalf of the National World War II Museum Board of Trustees, we are so proud and pleased to present you with the 2021 American Spirit Award.
It's heavy. Well, thank you very much, both of you. It's a great honor to receive this from such an important and seminal institution, and especially the commemoration of the greatest and most tragic event in world history. But I appreciate this deeply from both of you and from your board and all your supporters of the museum. Thank
you. Our next recipient won the Pulitzer Prize for her brilliant account of the Roosevelt White House and the American home front during World War II. Known for her New York Times #1 best-selling books, presidential historian Doris Kearns Goodwin provides historical context on current events and shares leadership lessons from our nation's history. It's an honor to present the 2021 American Spirit Award to Doris Kearns Goodwin.
Hello, Doris. This is Jane Olson. I'm a trustee of the National World War II Museum, and I had the privilege of nominating you for this award. We're so grateful that you accepted. We're so sad that we can't have dinner together. At a recent virtual dinner on Zoom, the host asked all of us guests if you were able to invite any famous person from history for dinner, who would that be? And I immediately responded, I would invite the famous historian, Doris Kearns Goodwin. And we will at least be with you virtually for the dinner. I'm sorry I can't be with you to present the award, but my fellow trustee, Brandon Berger, is there to do the honor, and we're all so proud of you. Congratulations.
Growing up on Long Island in post-World War II America, Doris Kearns Goodwin had no idea that her father's love of baseball would set her on a path to becoming America's foremost presidential biographer.
My father taught me how to keep score when I was only 6 years old, so I could record for him the history of that afternoon's Brooklyn Dodger game when he'd come home from work. I recounted every play of every inning. At first, I would blurt out, "The Dodgers won," or "The Dodgers lost," which took much of the drama of this 2-hour telling away. And I'm actually convinced that I learned the narrative art from those nightly sessions with my father.
While studying history, first at Colby College and then Harvard University, Kearns Goodwin was awarded a prestigious White House fellowship and joined the Lyndon B. Johnson administration, where she formed a bond with the leader that would change the course of her life.
LBJ was the most interesting, formidable, fascinating, complicated character I've ever known. And I realize now what a privilege it was to have been able to spend so many hours with him. And I think that privilege fired within me the drive to understand the inner person behind the public figure.
Over the next 50 years, Kearns Goodwin would go on to write some of the most important biographies of American presidents, bringing a complexity of storytelling and a sensitivity to character that has made her one of the most widely read and influential presidential historians in America.
What fascinates me about the presidency is the relationships between the people that are part of the presidency. So for Lincoln, it wasn't just Abraham Lincoln, it was Lincoln and his team of rivals. With Teddy Roosevelt, it was Teddy and Taft. And with Franklin, it was Franklin and Eleanor.
Kearns Goodwin feels a special affinity for the National World War II Museum and believes it is important to have a place where Americans can learn firsthand about an event that has defined our country.
The great thing about the National World War II Museum is when people come and they can confront directly the objects, the documents, the war comes alive for them. And we must never forget what that war was, what it was fought for, why it had to be fought. And that's what you believe in as an historian, that you can bring people back to life by telling their stories, because we have to remember what they did there.
With her decades of service helping Americans understand the leaders who shaped our country, and her commitment to vivid storytelling that brings to life some of the most important events in our history, Doris Kearns Goodwin truly embodies the essence of the American spirit.
What American spirit means is the willingness to contribute your own energy to a larger cause, and the feeling that there's something special about what we stand for in this country. And that's an extraordinary thing.
Doris, the scope of your scholarship, the depth of your research, and the complexity of your storytelling has been a true gift to this country, indeed, to people the world over. It has helped us understand that America is an ongoing experiment whose success rests on individuals who have the courage to make hard decisions at times of crisis. Your work reveals the very best in American leadership, as well as the values and traditions that make America so uniquely special. Doris, on behalf of the National World War II Museum, it is my great honor to present to you the 2021 American Spirit Award. Congratulations.
I thank you so very much, and it is such an honor to receive this American Spirit Award. How I wish we could have all been together in person, but at least we are connected virtually, which is one of the silver linings of this difficult time. And how splendid it is that you are able to be here in my library in Boston to deliver in person this testament to my love of history. I believe the most important lesson that history provides is that we as a people have been through really, really tough times before. The American Revolution, the Civil War, the Great Depression, and World War II. And we know what the people at the time did not know. We know the end of their story, that the revolution was won and we became a nation. We know that the Civil War came to an end with the Union restored and the 13th Amendment soon passed. We know that the Allies won World War II. So if we feel anxious today, not knowing the end of our story, history provides perspective. It provides lessons. It gives us hope. Which brings us to our event tonight. The National World War II Museum plays such a special role as the repository of our collective understanding of perhaps the single most consequential time period of 20th century America, which is why I am so proud for this recognition from your extraordinary institution. I thank you again.
And I thank you again, and congratulations. It is now my honor to give you the official American Spirit Award. I also have for you a replica of a Higgins amphibious landing craft built right in New Orleans that helped the Allies win the war. Congratulations, Doris.
Oh, thank you again, Brendan, and I thank all of you out there tonight.
An Emmy Award-winning filmmaker, tonight's next honoree has dedicated his career to lifting up African-American voices to more deeply inform the story of the American experience. In addition to hosting the groundbreaking genealogy series, Finding Your Roots on PBS, Henry Louis Gates Jr. is a celebrated Harvard University professor, author, literary scholar, and cultural critic. We are honored to present Henry Louis Gates Jr. with the museum's 2021 American Spirit Award.
Professor Henry Louis Gates Jr. renowned historian and director of the Hutchins Center for African and African American Research at Harvard University, showed an early interest in the subject that would make him a household name.
I did my first family tree when I was 9 years old. I didn't know it was called a family tree. I didn't know the word genealogy. I wanted to know, why are we the way we are? Genealogy is all about the quest to find out more about ourselves.
A talented student who was supported by his community, Gates made his way from Piedmont to Yale University, where he studied to become a doctor. But he never lost his love of history. He would go on to author over 20 books and edit a dozen more. But he is perhaps best known for his long-running PBS series, Finding Your Roots, in which he uses DNA to explore America's genealogy.
I love to tell the story of American history. I love to tell the story of race in America. I love to tell the story of the trials and tragedies of our experiment with democracy, how we've triumphed, and how we can do better.
Professor Gates feels connected to World War II through his father, who faced the complexity of serving his country in a segregated military while fighting racism abroad.
World War II is very complicated in the African-American experience. My father was in a segregated unit. No one confused about how Hitler felt about black people. I mean, racism was racism, and we had to fight this devil, this demonic force in the world. And we all celebrated the Tuskegee Airmen, because one of the racist myths was that black people weren't smart enough ever to command an airplane. And the Tuskegee Airmen put that lie to rest forever. These brothers had flown in combat and had comported themselves with dignity and nobility. And that, no doubt, helped the success of what would become the Civil Rights Movement.
Professor Gates's life and work reflects the best of the American spirit, and he believes this country represents the best the world has to offer.
No one ever stood in my way because of race. I experienced racism in my life, but no teacher ever discouraged me from dreaming that I could be a great doctor. They told me I could aspire to be anything I wanted. America still is a land of infinite possibility. You could come here with nothing, and you can make it into the middle class and the upper middle class. And not everyone can. You have to work very hard, but it's possible. The only thing I'm sorry about is that my fathers are not alive to see me receive the American Spirit Award, because he valued his time in the military and the noble sacrifices that black people made in order to defeat fascism. And it would have made him very proud.
Professor Gates, your life has embodied the best of the American spirit. Through your work as an educator and an author, your extraordinary series of documentaries, you have helped us all understand the sweep and complexity of the American experience in all its richness and diversity. We at the National World War II Museum are honored to recognize your contributions to America, and it is truly my privilege to represent the museum in presenting to you the 2021 American Spirit Award. Congratulations, Professor.
Oh, thank you, my brother. Thank you. This is a great honor for me.
I'd love to present this medallion to you.
Thank you. It is a very handsome medallion.
It looks good on you.
And I'm only sorry my dad couldn't be here. He was a veteran of the war. John, this award means an enormous amount to me. I feel a real kinship with the National World War II Museum because we share a mission, which is to engage people in the stories that define the complexity and the richness of the American experience. You see, at my core, I'm really just a teacher. And the books and documentaries and everything else I do are just different iterations of that primary calling, which is to reveal strands of narrative and stories that have been overlooked or pushed aside in the telling of American history. I'm honored that an institution as committed to truth-telling as the National World War II Museum sees value in my work and is recognizing that work with this incredible award. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
And that is the National World War II Museum's American Spirit Award.
This is one serious award.
It's heavy, huh?
It's heavy.
It is quite fitting for me to introduce the final two awards of the evening, right here from the Duchossois family, Road to Berlin, European Theater Galleries. Both of our final recipients served our country in Europe during World War II and have continued to dedicate their lives to service and philanthropy. Our next honoree served with the 610th Tank Destroyer Battalion in 5 European campaigns, receiving the Bronze Star, a Purple Heart, and the French Legion of Honor in recognition of his distinguished service during World War II. Major Richard L. Duchossois, whose family generously underwrote this gallery, went on to a successful career as a businessman, serving as a manufacturing and racetrack executive, and of course, on our museum's Board of Trustees from 2013 to 2019. It's my great honor to present the 2021 American Spirit Award to our dear friend, Richard Dick Duchossois.
World War II veteran, businessman, philanthropist, Richard Dick Duchossois has never done anything halfway. He credits his success to the American values of discipline, excellence, and teamwork that he learned as a young man attending Morgan Park Military Academy in Chicago, Illinois.
You learn to help others because it's who you serve, not who's going to serve you. And as long as you serve others, they're going to return that.
A year after he started at Washington and Lee University, Pearl Harbor was attacked, and he was called up as a second lieutenant and assigned to the 610th Tank Destroyer Battalion, where he quickly rose through the ranks, serving under the legendary General George S. Patton.
We had 1,000% confidence in General Patton. Didn't always agree, but we knew he was right and we were wrong, and we did it.
Duchossois served with distinction in numerous campaigns, including the Battle of the Bulge, earning 2 Bronze Stars as well as a Purple Heart.
We had been held up at the Moselle River. The Germans, they came in with their tanks. Well, we got overrun. As I was going along with my machine gun on there, looking out of the corner of my eye, I saw a German over there pegged at me. And the next thing I knew, it felt like I got hit in the stomach, but it was in the back. Word got back to my headquarters, and they came out under all the gunfire, picked me up, dragged me back, and got me back, so I headed toward the hospital. Without them, I wouldn't be here today.
After the war, Duchossois brought the same level of focus and excellence to the business world, rapidly building a business that encompassed everything from heavy manufacturing to media and his great love, horse racing. He credits all his success to the values he learned in the military.
Business and fighting in a war are not that much different. You're trying to live and win and conquer, but second isn't good enough. Same thing in business.
Although he has been honored with many awards and honors for business and racing, the thing he treasures most is the freedom for which he and his fellow Americans fought during World War II.
We are probably the only country in the world where you have the opportunities to be whatever you want to be, but you have your choice.
Many qualities come to mind when you think of Richard Duchossois: bravery, hard work, and the desire to lift up others, all of which makes him worthy of the American Spirit Award. But for Dick, he simply feels gratitude.
No one does all these things alone. It takes a lot of people helping you. In America, everyone is helping each other where they can.
Greetings, Dick Duchossois, to you and to all of your family and friends. It's an honor for me today to be here to share in the tribute for your American Spirit Award. You are a hero of the greatest generation, Dick, among those who served in Europe, and you served in 5 campaigns in some of the bitterest fighting, recipient of the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star. And then I stood with you in 2014 when the President of the Republic of France awarded you the Legion of Honor for your service there. The day that you accepted our invitation to come on the board, all you said to me is it would be a distinct honor. And then you set to work and brought us your energy and your vision and your generosity to help us complete the Campaigns of Courage Pavilion, Higgins Hotel, and the Hall of Democracy. I'm sorry we can't be together today, but all of us here wish you the very best. You inspire us, you honor us, we salute you, and wish you the very best congratulations as the 2021 recipient of the American Spirit Award.
Nick, I'm very flattered to be here today. It's such a tremendous honor to get this award. But if it weren't for you and the people around you that have helped me in everything that I have done, I wouldn't be here today. It is you and the people that you've surrounded yourself with that have brought the rest of us along so we could be doing our part. Thank you for everything that the National World War Museum has brought to the public. We have to teach people that war is not something you just read about. War changes nations, and it was an honor to do our part. And the recognition you have given us down here at the museum is fantastic. I wouldn't have even known about the museum and the things that people can see today that take us back to World War II. Being on your board has been one of the greatest honors I've ever had, but it gives me a small part of feeling that we're getting over to the public that war isn't a game. Many, many thanks to you and all your group. Thank you, Nick. Thank you for all you have done. Thank you for all that your organization has done. You're a leader.
Our final recipient for the evening joined the Army in 1943 after he escaped Nazi Germany and became a naturalized U.S. citizen. Best known for helping shape U.S. foreign policy as the 56th Secretary of State, the Honorable Henry Kissinger served in the 84th Infantry Division during World War II and dedicated the rest of his life to public service, earning the Nobel Peace Prize and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. We're honored to recognize Dr. Henry Kissinger with the 2021 American Spirit Award.
I'm Richard Adkerson here in Connecticut with my old and dear friend, Henry Kissinger. I hate it when somebody says no one needs an introduction, but this is Henry Kissinger. His public service career is phenomenal, maybe history's greatest statesman, diplomat. We're not here, though, to talk about Henry's career in public service today. He's got a remarkable story that hasn't been widely told, and that's his personal story.
Perhaps the most consequential geopolitical thinker of the 20th century, Dr. Henry Kissinger's life and work reflects the best of America's ideals. Born in Germany in 1923 to a German Jewish family, violent persecution at the hands of the Nazis forced Dr. Kissinger and his family to flee Germany for the United States in 1938, where they settled in New York City.
I came to the United States not speaking English, so I started working in a shaving brush factory years before I was drafted. I was with the 84th Infantry Division, called the Rail Splitter Division, in honor of Abraham Lincoln. And that was my transition to America, and I became a citizen while I was with the Army.
Dr. Kissinger's knowledge of the German language and his sharp intellect led to an assignment with the Army Intelligence Division, where he rapidly rose through the ranks. He volunteered for hazardous duty and saw combat at the Battle of the Bulge. He later was awarded the Bronze Star for his work tracking down Gestapo officers and saboteurs during the American advance into Germany.
There was no question among my fellow soldiers that we were in a just war. Our purpose was always clear, and we were all proud to be there and have the opportunity.
After the German surrender, Kissinger was named Commandant of the Bensheim Metro District, where he was responsible for the denazification effort.
Our job was to establish government. I had been promoted to sergeant and helped administer a city of 200,000, which was a rather rapid advance from my emigration from Germany only 6 years before then.
The GI Bill allowed Dr. Kissinger to return to school after the war. He earned his BA and PhD from Harvard with the highest honors, where he continued his academic career until President Richard Nixon appointed him National Security Advisor in 1969. This marked the beginning of his role as one of the primary architects of the late 20th century American international policy. As National Security Advisor and later as Secretary of State for both President Nixon and his successor, President Gerald Ford, Dr. Kissinger would be responsible for shaping some of the most complex international engagements on the world stage, which included engineering the opening of China to the West, creating the détente policy with the USSR, negotiating the SALT agreements, and leading the Paris Peace Accords that led to the end of the Vietnam War. But despite all his accomplishments, Dr. Kissinger often thinks back to his experience as an enlisted man in World War II and how it shaped his worldview.
In World War II, there was a spirit of common purpose, common conviction about the importance of America. And that when the war was over, American values, democratic values, would contribute to the peace and to stability in the world. And our biggest challenge today is to rediscover a unity of spirit and recognize that different points of view are essential to carry out the future of a country.
Dr. Kissinger has been recognized with many honors, including the Nobel Prize, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, Israel's President's Medal, the Medal of Liberty, and the Order of St. Michael and St. George. The National World War II Museum is proud to add to Dr. Kissinger's many accolades by awarding him the 2021 American Spirit Award, not only for his service to his country in World War II, but for representing America on the international stage with honor, dignity, and integrity.
It's a profound personal privilege and honor for me to recognize my dear friend Henry Kissinger with our museum's American Spirit Award. He's been a credible personal friend and counselor for me. But beyond that, he's a great American, a great patriot, a man who has always been a leader and a man who has gained the great respect, not only of people here in the United States, but as I travel around the world, I constantly hear people speak in great terms of admiration about. And so, Henry, I want to present you with the American Spirit Award medallion that recognizes the contributions that you've made to our country, and also this very special award that I think is very neat of the Higgins boat, which Dwight Eisenhower said won the war for us. And so this is a replica of the Higgins boat, and congratulations, Henry, and thank you so much for accepting this.
It is a great honor for me to receive this award for two reasons. One, because it is from the museum that honors World War II. And the second reason is the title of this award. The spirit of America has fostered democracy around the world. It characterized American purposes during World War II and in the reconstruction of the world afterwards. And it is desperately needed for the future of America and for the future stability and progress of the world that America rediscovers the spirit that has made it great. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Henry.
It's truly meaningful to see so many great leaders who span multiple generations carrying on the American spirit and reminding others of the importance of preserving our democracy and our union. Congratulations to all of our award recipients tonight who have set great examples for our country through their selfless service. Now, it remains our responsibility to ensure that the World War II values of service and sacrifice are not forgotten. I also want to thank all of you once again for joining us this evening, and I invite you to come and see us in New Orleans very soon. The museum is fully open along with the Higgins Hotel and Conference Center right here on our campus. And now to close our evening together, please join me in welcoming our Victory Bells.
mountains, to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam.